We're going over the Commander cards most worth buying for the month of February, and if you stick around all the way to the end of the video, we're going over what we're personally speculating on.
I'm Mia, and I like putting avocado in everything.
I'm BZ. I like using Post-it notes, but I never find a purpose for them. We're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by our favorite sponsor that sells and buys cards. That's got to be Card Kingdom, obviously.
We love Card Kingdom. You can buy, you can sell, you can pre-order there, and if coming soon, you can go to our landing page where we'll have expertly picked cards and products just for you.
Picked by us, handpicked even. And you can pre-order, like you said, Fallout right now on the website. Go to Card Kingdom. They get free shipping orders over $50. So you're not spending $1 million on a million cards from a million different sources that come to your house in a million packages.
Could have said it better myself. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
If you use the code
NERDS
at checkout, you can save 5% of your real money tax dollars.
That's a pretty healthy, heaping healthy amount. And we're also sponsored by Moxfield. There's an ad somewhere in the video. You won't be able to guess where it is. If you want to guess right now in the comments, you can, but you're going to be wrong. Also, Patreon. Doug Bailey is a patron of ours. So patronage-ish that we are shouting him out in the video. You can see our other patrons here. If you want to go join, there's some awesome tiers, including exclusive gameplay, spell table gameplay that you cannot see anywhere else.
There's also pictures of our cats. There are also opportunities to have one-on-one calls with us every single month. So go check it out and go send the cats to college because they will love you.
They need to go to college. So we're talking about the cards that are most worth buying for the month of February in Commander. We are obviously now using Card Kingdom prices since they are our sponsor. And we're talking about not necessarily cards to go speculate on. That's for later in the video for us. Cards that you can just buy knowing they are 110% worth their price.
These are cards that we use in our personal decks, cards that we've seen just do a lot of work in friends decks or just people we've played against, and just cards in general we think that are worth the price that they're at right now, especially if they are a little bit lower than usual.
Yeah, some of them got reprinted, but we're going to go to the first one. It's Soul Shatter, $2.30, 2 and a black for an instant. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control.
We often talk on the show about 3-for-1 removal, where you're just getting a lot more bang for your buck in terms of removing your opponent's things. Considering we have 3 opponents in Commander, 1-for-1 removal isn't worth it as much as some of these other spells are. Soul Shatter is really, really good considering you usually take out the most threatening thing on every person's board.
Yeah, it cares about mana value, so it's like whatever you spent the most mana on, maybe you cheated something into play, but you used all your resources to get that. I'm going to take it out for just 3 mana. People are playing like Doomblade and Go for the Throat and Infernal Grasp and the other one that just came out from LCI, and that's 2 mana to destroy 1 creature. Let's add 1 more mana, hit 99% of the time all the creatures you want to hit anyway, but you're taking out 3 creatures at once. This card used to be a budget bomb, but it's creeping up a little bit, and I don't care because this is one of the best, to me, non-free black removal spells in Commander.
I think it's definitely worth it. Usually take out the one biggest thing you want, and then the other 2 are just kind of collateral, but you're still happy to take them out. So what if someone's Land of War Elves gets swept up in it?
That's free.
That's free value, and you want to take out someone's cheated out 6-drop. That's what you were aiming for to begin with. I think this is an amazing card, and I do love playing it in my black removal suite.
Not to mention that it also gets around hexproof and indestructible because it makes the player sacrifice. It doesn't target at all.
I really do like that too. I feel like sacrifice effects are so underrated in Commander in general.
Especially that each player or each opponent does this. It's backbreaking. You can take people out of the game without even trying because, and we're going to probably do a video about this in the future, but we're talking like, I'm going to advance my game plan. I'm going to take out this threat. I know that this dragon's going to be a problem. And just casting my 3 mana removal spell also takes out 2 other creatures that are high investments for those players.
I feel like they're stapling ward onto everything nowadays. So if there's like a big Tivit on the board and then there's just like a couple, like a 4 value creature and just like a 3, for 3 mana you took out everything. You didn't even need to pay for any wards or whatever. That's such a good deal.
Yeah, think about like if you wanted to try out Soul Shatter, think about how much mana you're answering for 3 mana, because usually, like you said, it's like 10. It's like at least 5.
Yeah, that's what we need in Commander. That's why we love things like Druid of Purification or like the new Pick Your Poison and stuff, just because it answers so much at once, and this is such a good value for the 3 mana that you spend.
Yeah, let's get some more value. Let's go to the next card. What do we got?
We've got Benny Brack's Zoologist at $5.60. 3 and a white for a 3/2 with Convoke at the beginning of each end step. If you created a token this turn, draw a card. This was previously $20 considering it was only in one of the pre-cons prior, so it had only been printed once. Not even in a real set, but it was reprinted in the precons that just came out. So it's down to 560, and this is amazing mono white card draw.
This thing is serious card draw. It cares about each end step, so theoretically you could draw 4 cards in a turn cycle. Most of the time it's going to come down for 0 mana because it's Convoke. You just make a token, make your tokens, then convoke them into this for free. Double spell when you couldn't have possibly double spell with almost any other card because you're out of mana, and then you get to draw a card starting immediately on the end of the turn, and then it can just keep going if you have other ways like tappers to make tokens, like tap, make a token. You can do that on somebody else's turn very easily. Or if you've got like, whenever someone attacks you, you get a token. Great. All of this stuff just makes Benny Brax go off.
This is really nasty if you have like Adeline and Smothering Tithe out because that's like 4 per turn because it doesn't care whether it's a creature token or a treasure token. It just says token.
Yeah, Adeline's good with this, and Smothering Tithe is super, super good with this. Benny Brax is great, and like we said, it used to be $20, and it's now less than $6, and I think it's probably primed to go back up because the last time it got printed, it was just in a precon. This is just another precon, so I could see this being $10 in a month.
Yeah, I could see it too. So I would definitely scoop one up right now, especially if you have the deck that cares about it.
Yeah, next up we got Branching Evolution. This is a $12 card. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1/+1 counters are put on that creature instead. It's the doubling season, but only for counters. People have been playing doubling season, I think, in +1/+1 counters decks when they really don't need to. It's a huge investment. It's 5 mana, quote unquote, do nothing because you need to make counters happen to then get it. So cutting the mana value down by 2 and forgetting the part that counters decks don't care about anyway, which is tokens, makes the card actually pretty sweet. Just give me the +1 counters. I'm going to go off anyway. A lot of the +1 counters you make are instances of 1, which is why we like Hardened Scales too. So it's going to be just double, 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 get my stuff together and just dominate.
Considering this can come down on turn 2 or 3, that is such a good value. I don't really like doubling season because it just says tokens or +1/+1 counters, as BZ mentioned, and you're usually going one route over the other. Plus, it's like, it was $90 at its max at one point. I think it went down to $40, but this is $12. And so this, I think, should be a big staple in the +1/+1 counter decks that people are running.
Yeah, if you have doubling season and you bought it for that deck, I guess I'm sorry, but I would recommend straight up cutting it for this. Not even just to save yourself, like you said, before it was 90, now it's 45 or whatever. So you save $30, but you also just get a card that's cheaper and just ends up being better for you. So Branching Evolution, totally got to consider it. You know, I'm thinking like Crystalline Crawl or Hangerback Walker, Walking Ballista, all of the like, put counters on me now, things that can kind of also put counters on themselves in every one of those instances. Just get unfair when you have things like Hardened Scales, Branching Evolution. So get those in your deck and take out the like doubling seasons of the world.
This will just go a lot faster. It'll get your game plan in action, and you'll just get a lot more counters in the long run. The next card is Glasspool Mimic, a land and a spell, also known as an MDFC. For $6, 2 and a blue for a 0/0, you can have it ETB as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to all of its other types.
Or it's a tap land that makes blue, which is just that choice doesn't really exist on Magic cards. There's not a lot of, especially non-green Magic cards, where you can play a land or a spell. So if you're worried about Mana Screw and Mana Flood, the more MDFCs you add, the less you'll screw and the less you'll flood. If you want to play, like, let's say you have 36 lands in your deck, you can cut 4 of them for MDFCs, and now it's like you have the benefits of having 32 lands in your deck, with all the benefits of also having 36. Plus, now whenever you draw those 4 lands that are MDFCs, they're actually spells.
Bushwhack is not an MDFC, however, this is guaranteed an MDFC. I think that even though we usually don't encourage having clones in your deck, because though it is nice to have double effects and stuff, it's not always necessary to the game plan. This is one that you can include because it is both the land and the spell, as BZ so often loves to point out.
Yes, that is unparalleled. So, like, I don't like Spark Double. I don't really like Sakashima. I don't really like even like Mirror Image. I don't like playing those cards that only copy your stuff or copy your stuff and the legend rule goes away because they're so dead not most of the time, but a lot of the time they're dead. But this is just a land. You don't. It can't be dead because it's either going to develop your mana or when it's great, you can cast it and it can copy one of your creatures. Like, I love MDFCs, and we really haven't talked about Glasspool Mimic on Most Worth Buying, which is kind of wild, but it's only $6.
I think that's a great deal for it. I think it was a little bit higher at one point because it was being played in a different format, but it has gone down a bit since then because I think it topped out like 8.
Some of the MDFCs, I don't know if this one specifically did, but some of them got reprinted in the
flip Cute
to Brute Secret Lair. So some of them are like temporarily down. I'm sure they'll be back up, but this might be one of those things. Mia, you were talking about value earlier. I think that in order to get maximum value, which we always advocate for on this channel, you might have to leave YouTube for a hot second, because on Saturday, February 10th at 3 p.m., we are on Whatnot for massive giveaways. So massive that I have to flash the number 10 at you like 87 times.
That I wish people could have a 3D screen, because that was massive. Just like the value that we're going to be giving away. We're going to be building an entire deck out of this box right here, a commander deck, and giving it away to one lucky person in the stream.
Wow, we're giving away a whole box worth of cards on stream? That's crazy. Do we have anything else? Probably not, right?
How about collector packs every 5 minutes?
Every 5 minutes. I mean, and that would be cool, right? That's what we did last time with Ravnica Remastered. We can't possibly have, oh, wait a second. We have all 4 precons to give away on the same stream? Also? Are you kidding me? So get over to Whatnot for maximum value. Enter to win all these giveaways. There's going to be like 20 of them. And that's the way to get maximum value. Whatnot is the live shopping platform that you were missing in your life, especially with us on it.
Absolutely. You can use our link to get $15 credit free to spend on whatever you want on the platform too. So go bookmark our stream, go check it out, use our link, and get some free stuff while you're at it.
But that does bring us to our next card, which is probably the longest card we've ever read on Most Worth Buying. It's Necromancy at $9.50, 2 and a black enchantment. Buckle up. You may cast Necromancy as though it had flash. If you cast it anytime a sorcery couldn't have been cast, the controller of the permanent it becomes sacrifices it at the beginning of the next cleanup step. When Necromancy enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it becomes an aura with, quote, enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Necromancy, end quote. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control and attach Necromancy to it. When Necromancy leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. This is a very old card with those are the updated rules text of it. It used to be a lot shorter and make no sense. Basically, the card's very intuitive. You bring a creature out with Necromancy, and then if either one of them goes away, the other one goes away. Totally makes sense. That is not really doable, and it requires this much text to say. But Necromancy is available for the first time ever in a non-crusty version because it was reprinted in a precon. So it's not $18 anymore, it's $9.50, and B, it actually looks like Modern Magic cards. So if you were having a Necromancy sticking out like a sore thumb, it is one of the best reanimation spells in the format. So now you can upgrade it to not from Visions.
Besides the text box on it, the art does look really clean. It's not that crusty, like grabbing
just an old man's
anymore.
Face.
And it doesn't have the old border, which might make those fall a little bit in the future too, considering there is another version. But this is a really good reprint. I'm really happy that they're reprinting, they had the Anime Dead reprints a few times. They're bringing this back. And now we're just looking for Dance of the Dead to complete that trifecta.
Yeah, the Necromancy is a very good aura. It's good with like Protean Hulk if you want to get really spicy, but it's also just good with gigantic monsters. 3 mana to reanimate is a decent rate, and being able to surprise somebody if a creature has a death trigger or an ETB trigger that you really need, or you can like steal something like an Atali at instant speed out of someone else's graveyard and just get the trigger for yourself and don't care that it dies. Necromancy can do a lot of work. I don't think people have been playing it much in casual, probably because it wasn't really a card people had that on their radar because it's so old and it's like kind of more of a competitive thing, and even then I don't think it sees much playing competitive. So it's a card not a lot of people have seen, but now that you've seen it, are the brew juices flowing?
I think it was definitely a little bit more played back in the day of competitive because it combos with World Gorger and that sort of thing, but that has been phased out a little bit. But nowadays, because I think these old cards are making a resurgence, like Reconnaissance, which was just reprinted in a Secret Lair, I'm happy that they're bringing back all these cool old cards that are actually really, really good in today's standards.
All right, next is another black card, but it's actually more of a Kindred payoff because it has the word Kindred in it. What is it?
It's Kindred Dominance at $7.50. 5 black for a sorcery. Choose a creature type, and you destroy everything that's not that creature type. That is short and sweet, and we love it for Kindred decks.
Yeah, $7.50, and it also makes me think that, well, if all my creatures are the same type, and that type is something that is not very obvious, like I'm not playing humans or wizards, most of my opponent's creatures, if not all of them, are going to die, meaning this is Plague Wind, but instead of 9 mana, you get to pay 7. Seems like a pretty solid upgrade to that. I mean, I don't really like Plague Wind. It is like, if you can cast it and things go your way, it works, but I think it's just too expensive. So cheapening it this much really helps it be a card that I can cast and obviously, when you destroy all creatures that aren't yours, your creatures are unblockable now. There's no way to get in between the opponent's face and your creature.
Especially if there are just a few creature type synergies among your types. For instance, like Draenith Magistrate, Op Agent, all humans. So if you had just those two out and you picked humans and then no one else had anything out, you could just wipe an entire board and just have your 2 value creatures still there.
Yeah, you have all information, so it's not like you don't know what the creature types of the creatures in play are. So when you have this in your brain as something you're going to cast, you can think of, well, if I choose human, what survives? All right, if I choose demon, what survives? So that you can, that, oh, there's 2 blockers left over here. That's fine. I'll send my flyers your way. And if you're choosing something like demon or dragon or angel, let's just name all the Kaalia ones, then they're probably not going to have anything. Moving on to our next card, we have Recruiter of the Guard. I don't think we've ever talked about this as well on Most Worth Buying. This is $22, so it's our priciest one of the day. It's 2 and a white for a 1/1 when it enters the battlefield. You can search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. This card has not been printed that many times, and it's kind of a weirdo, but it's a toolbox card. For 3 mana, you go get to find another creature, and usually it's something cheap, but there are some cards that are a little expensive with higher impact on the game, like Karmic Guide, and probably one of the best ones to get with this, Solitude, that you can go get, to where this is now, maybe it's a removal spell. It's also a chump blocker. It's sack fodder. It's card draw if you want to go get Esper Sentinel, something like that. It can be a land tutor if you go get Weathered Wayfarer, which is like a tutor for a tutor.
There are so many options for this card, especially if you expand it to playing more than just white, because you could go get a Rex Age, you could go get whatever you really need. I think that this is, as BZ talked about, really toolboxy. You can go get like Mana Dorks. I really like this card a lot.
Yeah, it's also very good in blue-white blink. You're mentioning other colors. Well, let's go get like Soul Herder, which then just flickers this to go get something else. You can get a Mole Drifter if you're in a flicker deck, a Cloud Blazer, I think it's called. You can get a ton of stuff. So in blink, it's really, really scary. But even just in like humans or weenies or aristocrats, you go get your Blood Artist. Like, there's no deck full of creatures that doesn't have like 5 or 6 absolute banger targets for this. Even if you're in higher power games, this still works because you can get, like we said, Esper Sentinel. How about Dockside Extortionist? How about you just slap one of those into play? You can get Kiki Jiki and then copy this to go find like just one of your other combo pieces with Kiki Jiki. Like, okay.
If you're not looking for a finisher, like your Hulks or your Crater Hoofs or whatever, this can usually find what you're looking for. I really do like the fact that it's so versatile when it comes in for only 3 mana also.
Yeah, there's also plenty of creatures that don't have any power or toughness, like Hangerback Walker and any clone, which you can now go get to copy bigger creatures. I love Recruiter. It's so much utility value for just 3 mana that I'm like in love with this card, and I try to play it all the time. $22, it's worth it, trust me.
I hope it goes down because 22 is a little expensive. It's worth the expensive price, but it is on the more expensive side of this list.
Yeah, on the more expensive side, mana-wise, is Baylor, $5.60 for a 3-red, 5/5 flyer. When it attacks or dies, choose 1 or more. Each mode must target a different player. Target opponent draws 3, then discards 3 at random. Target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact, and Baylor deals damage to target opponent equal to their hand size. This thing is pretty okay, but it doesn't give you anything right away. But what breaks this card is when you can give it haste, and you have a sack outlet or something, or you're cloning it, or you're getting multiple triggers of this, because it is backbreaking. I'm one of those commander players who pretty much always has like 6 or 7 cards in hand, so seeing a Baylor with haste, it's almost too late because it attacks, and now I take 7. Because they know they're going to target me, or they're going to target whoever has 7 cards, right? They're 7 damage right away. It's also a 5/5 flyer. I might be taking 5 if it's coming right at me. Plus bonus value on taking out an artifact. Bonus value on screwing up somebody's hand. I think it is net negative to draw 3, discard 3 at random. I don't really want to do that, especially in a format like Commander where I'm sandbagging certain things. So then, now that they have a sack outlet, you have to try to kill it. Otherwise, it'll come at you again. But when you do that, it either dies or they sack it and it triggers all over again.
This is usually one of the big threats that you see in like Henzi decks, for instance, but you could also be seeing it in red-black sack decks because it still gets the dies trigger and you're just getting this all over again. You have to pick one mode per player, but if you can get it to attack and die in the same turn, you can pick the different modes at that point too, if you do realize that someone drew something they really liked or something like that.
Yeah, or if somebody plays a big card draw spell on their turn, Baylor pressures them by saying, I have a sack outlet. You sure you want to draw 14 cards or something? I'm going to blow up your whole life. Yeah, Baylor, it hits really hard. I would say you got to give it haste or you got to have a sack outlet or something so that the worst case scenario doesn't happen where it's turn 5, you tap out for Baylor, you go, look at me, and then somebody plays like swords on it or something. That would just suck. So if you're protected from that, I think this card really slaps.
You know what else slaps? Moxfield.com, the best place online to build a deck.
I would say it slaps, and I would say head on over there. You can tag the cards in your decks to show up to in an alternate view method. You view it based on the tags. You can sort, oh, here's all my cards that are haste enablers. Oh, here's all my cards that are stack outlets. Now I know that Baylor does or does not fit into my red-black deck.
Moxfield is super awesome considering that not only can you build commander decks, we have like the commander cube on ours, we have the battle box, which we've been playing on, whatnot, and a bunch of other things. I have my pioneer deck on there. I really like the fact that it will tell you what's legal and not in every format, and then just kind of conform to the standards of whatever you pick.
Moxfield's great. Go get on Moxfield right after this video, which has another card called Pest Infestation in it. It's $9. XX green sorcery. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X/1/1 black and green pests that die into gaining you 1 life. This is an interesting card. It has a lot of different points at which you can cast it. You can cast it for 3 mana, and you'll get 2 pests, which a lot of people don't think works that way. It just doesn't seem like that would be the case. I would assume X is 1, I'm getting 1, but it's twice X. So 3 mana, you kill something, and you make 2 bodies. That's already like a better rate than Reclamation Sage, assuming you don't care about the fact that it's a creature. Now, if you pay 5 mana, you destroy 2 things, and you get 4 pests. And now you're getting 4 life when they die. That is just a lot of stuff happening. And that's, obviously, you can go 7, you can go 9, you can go even more.
I've seen you put in a lot of work with this in Beledros because you are making so much mana in that deck. And then you're just getting a ton of bodies, you know, these chump blockers that will also gain you life. If you have sacrifice effects in your deck, it can really matter too. If you just need a bunch of like life really quickly. I really like this card. I'm kind of sad to see that it was only reprinted in pre-con, right? That's why it's $9.
Yeah, this is a card that I fear will go up in the future. It's not a card I want to speculate on. We'll get to that later, but it is worth $9. I want to, like, I have some of these already, but if I didn't, I would want to pick some up just to like Doomsday Prep in case they ever go up to like 25, because I could see this isn't a card. Like, when are they going to reprint this? It makes pest tokens.
I think pests are a little bit of like the weird token.
Yeah,
it's like
from
it's the
Strixhaven.
pest, it's the slugs, and I would love for them to go back to Strixhaven. I thought that was super cool, but I don't see them doing it anytime soon.
Yeah, but this is for like naturalizes. You're not going to get this many bodies on your naturalizes. It's a very weird card. Super good for token decks, super good for life gain decks, super good for decks that just want efficient removal. I mean, 5 mana to destroy 2 things, get 4 bodies. Show me the other card that does that.
Multiple 3-for-1s, 2-for-1s. I like the fact that this is multimodal.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next card, or cards in our list, it's a cycle of lands. It's the enemy check lands. This includes Sulphur Falls, Isolated Chapel, Hinterland Harbor, Clifftop Retreat, and Woodland Cemetery. These are the lands that say they come in tapped unless you have like a swamp or a forest or an island or a mountain. These work really, really well with the typed lands, including Triumphs, and they are somewhere between $2 and $4.50 right now, depending on which one you get.
Yeah, these all used to be like $10 plus. I remember, this was a year or 2 ago or a couple years ago, but they've been reprinted enough now, and I think they're starting to become like regular reprint fodder for precons, which is sick. I will take this all day. I'm so glad these are all basically around $2. The only one that's more than $3 is Woodland Cemetery for some reason, but pick these up. Seriously, these are cards that I can't foresee being cuttable in commander decks when they enter the battlefield untapped 95% of the time. If you have fetches and shocks and stuff, then they're going to enter untapped pretty much all the time. They are really, really good. I love them. I don't like to play all these enters the battlefield tapped and do this thing tapped unless they're fetchable. These are not, but they enter the battlefield untapped all the time, so they're just great.
Lands are those cards that I always buy first because unlike creatures that are a little bit specific sometimes, lands are the things that I can always guarantee will go into other decks if I decide I don't like the deck that I'm building and will take apart later. So I think these are a really good investment because they're not, $4.50 at the maximum and the rest are $2, $2.50, $2.30, and $2.80. That's a really good deal. You
can spend like $11 to get 5 staple lands that you're not going to cut from commander decks anytime soon. Almost, I would say never. They're just amazing. And you get the assurance that you're going to play them. I don't know if I'm going to play Pest Infestation in every green deck, but in every blue-red deck that's like 2 or 3 colors, I'm going to play Sulphur Falls. It's just going to happen.
I can really see them being used in so many decks, so especially if you do lean to a certain color combination like we often do, it might be worth buying those lands.
Yep, and it's time now for our special game. This is the speculation game. We are playing this new game where the two of us just independently speculate, and we buy a couple copies of one card, and we see at the end of every month and later at the end of the year who wins that month, and we're going to see who's going to win the whole year of speculation. So the last thing we speculated on, I bought Master of Dark Rites, and Mia bought Bessie, Doxter's Roadster. I won the spec, as it turns out. Mine's up 30 cents. Mia's has seen no change. So we're taking it slow. This is a gradual process. We're going to see who has better specs over the year. But I have won January, so props to me, I guess. So Mia, what are you speculating on this month? We're buying 5 copies of these each, by the way.
We've talked about this in the deck audits that we just did, and we also talked about this in the top 15 cards from MKM, but I'm going to be speculating on Unexplained Absence. This is a 3 or even 4 for 1 if you target your own thing, and it's only for 4 mana, and it's in white. I really like this. I think it's going to do what Druid of Purification did. It started off kind of slow, was printed in the precons, and then it spiked when everyone realized how good it was because of all the value it brought.
Yeah, it's $1.29 right now. My card is also $1.29. It's gone down a little bit because of the Wilds of Eldraine precons. I have Kenris Transformation. I think just a staple green removal spell. Green really shouldn't be able to answer creatures in this good of a way where you get your card back and you shut off and you can stick commanders stuck on the field doing nothing while getting your card back. It's also $1.29. I think this card's great. I also do think Unexplained Absence is great. That almost, like, if you weren't here and you were somebody else, I probably would have spec'd on Unexplained Absence. So she kind of stole mine, but this is like, Mia loves this card even more than me. I think it's great. Mia thinks it's fantastic. We're going to see who wins the spec game for next month. But if you're wondering what we spec'd on last month or what we thought was worth buying, which probably still holds true for now, there's a most worth buying for January.